Hi everyone, welcome back to the Photon Rookie channel. My name's Jim, and today we are going to have a tutorial about multi-layer masking in GIMP. This is the most requested video from my subscribers that I've ever gotten. This video is somewhat long. For those of you who are familiar with my tutorials, you can skip a lot of this and go straight to the masking in GIMP if that's what you'd prefer to do. Anyway, masking in GIMP can really help you with nebula that have very bright sections like the core of M42, the Orion Nebula, and that's the example we're going to use today. All the software I use in processing this image is freeware. I use Seestar, GraXpert, GIMP, and AstroSharp. I do the masking for this object in GIMP, but there are many other programs out there that also have masking functions. GIMP happens to be my favorite. Here we have a fully stretched image of M42, the Orion Nebula, with its signature blown out core. What we're going to do is we're going to use multi-layer masking in GIMP today so that we can reveal a lot of that hidden structure around the nebula and not blow the core out. So masking will allow you to go from this result to this result. Okay, Serial is open. We have the unstretched linear image of M42 here on the screen. This image is comprised of about 8,000 10-second fit files from the Seestar's S30 and S50, all combined into one folder and stacked together. So let's go ahead and take this image out of linear and put it in auto stretch so we can have a look with what kind of data we're dealing with. We just come down here and click this tab, select auto stretch, and this gives you a good visualization of the data you caught with your Seestar. So 8,000 subs on a bright object like M42 really yields a whole lot of information in the image. So this is going to be a fun one to process today. So the first thing I do in my workflow is I come up here to image processing and I come down and I remove the green noise. Select this right here, click apply, and any green noise you had in your image disappeared. I saw a subtle difference. That green noise is generally introduced when you use your LP filter in your Seestar. When you're observing emission nebulas, it will introduce quite a bit of green noise into the image. A good example of that would be the bright stars on the Horsehead Nebula. When they come out green, that's your filter doing that. Okay, so we've gotten rid of the green noise. Let's close that. Let's save it. The next thing I want to do is I want to do a spectrophotometric color calibration on the image. And what that does is it goes out to an online database and retrieves what is supposedly the correct accepted color, and it will apply it to your object. So the way we do that is we come up here to Tools, we come down to Astrometry and Image Plate Solver. This box will open up. Just leave all the data alone in the box and click OK. And what that did, that just plate solved our image so that the spectrophotometric color calibration will work. If you don't plate solve the image first, then that option will be grayed out and you won't be able to use it. So now that we've plate solved, let's come up to image processing, come down to color calibration, and right here we have spectrophotometric color calibration. We will click on that. You want to make sure that you have the Seestar selected, and since I'm in the Seestar S30 field of view, I'm going to select the Seestar S30, and I did use the LP filter for this, which is recommended, so that's already selected here. And once you get these two boxes lined up, you go ahead and click OK, and it will perform the color calibration on your image. So when it completes it, you're going to get these white balance summaries here. I don't use them for anything. There may be some of you experts out there that might get something from this data, but I don't pay any attention to it. But it will open up when the color calibration is complete. So the next thing I do is close. you want to make sure you save the image, and now the image is color corrected. What we can do is I'll back up one step and you can see the difference. So I'll back up to before we color corrected. All right, this was our before picture. And now after color spectrophotometric color calibration, this is what the image looked like. All right, there's a subtle difference, but there is a difference there. Okay, so that we want to make sure that that result is saved. And next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to remove the stars. So let's come up to image processing, come down to star processing, and we're going to go to StarNet star removal, and we're going to come here and hit execute, and we'll just let StarNet do its thing and remove the stars from the image. Okay, the stars are gone. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to save that result. And now what I'm going to do, I want to take this image and I want to run it through a program called GraXpert, which will do a background extraction and will also do some noise reduction on the image. So the way I do it, I save it as a TIFF file in a folder on my desktop, and then I send that put that into GraXpert. A lot of people just turn it into a TIFF file and send it straight to GraXpert and vice versa. I don't do that. For some reason, I've had issues occasionally doing that. So I kind of have a version of the way I do things here. You don't have to do it this way, but this is the version that just works for me. So what I do is I come up here and I hit this little download arrow, and I want to save it as a TIFF file. So you want to come here to supported image files, click on that, select TIFF. And I'm going to go to the desktop where my TIFF holder is located. I keep it in a file called YouTube Work, and there it is. There's my TIFF holder right there, and I save it there. You can put these files anywhere in any location you want, just as long as you know where they are, so you can put your files there and retrieve them when you need it. So you have to hit save, and it's going to ask you if you want to save it anyway, because remember, this view is not stretched yet. It's in linear mode. You go yes, you want to save it anyway. Okay, so the next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to open GraXpert, and I'm going to load that image into GraXpert. So here it is. It's in my TIFF holder. Here's the starless image that we just moved into the TIFF holder. So I'll click on that. Okay, there's the image that we just imported from Cyril. So what we're going to do is we're going to do a background extraction. Just one interesting point, you don't want to do any cropping on this image after you remove the stars, because if you do, you won't be able to marry the stars back to the image because they're going to be different size images. So I always skip the crop function. If any cropping needs to be done, like to get rid of some of this noise on the edges, I do that later in a different operation after the stars are put back into the image. Yes, I did all these. All this was observed in Alt-As. I didn't have an equatorial mount yet. This data is just over a year old. So yeah, I do have some stacking artifacts here that I no longer experience since I've gone to EQ mode. But anyway, that's a subject for another video. So we're going to do background extraction first. So we click, select that little cross on background extraction. And I always do the smoothing at 1.0. You can play with this slider and see if you get different results, but I always use 1.0. And I click calculate background, and GraXpert does its thing, and you can see some of the gradient in the background's gone now. You can come up here to gradient corrected and look at the background you just removed, and this is what was removed from the image. Some stray light. And then these lines, I don't know if you can see them on YouTube or not, but there are lines in here that look like they're from a topographical map. Those were all removed also. Okay, let's go back to gradient corrected. Now we'll do denoising. We come over here and select denoising. Again, on noise strength, I leave it at 1.0. You'll see some of this graininess disappear when the denoising process is complete. So I'll go ahead and click denoise image, and GraXpert will do its thing. Okay, it did. It softened it up quite a bit. So what we're going to do now is we're going to save this image back into the TIFF holding folder we took it from. So we come down here to saving, click on that, and save processed. You can see it's going to put it back in the TIFF holder folder right here. Hit save. And once you do that, you're done with GraXpert. So you can just close that program. All right, the next thing we're going to do is we're going to open GIMP. And I'm going to use GIMP to turn that file we just sent through GraXpert back into a fits folder and put it back in serial so we can start stretching. So the way I do that is I come up into File, Open. I go to Desktop because that's where my TIFF holder is. All right. And it's my YouTube work video and my TIFF holder. So the image that we want to send back to serial will have this GraXpert subscript on it. When you ran it through GraXpert, the program assigned that to it. So that's how you tell the difference between that one and the old one. So we want to click on that, and it will open it up. It'll just be a fairly dark screen because it's not stretched yet. So what we want to do now is we want to send this back to serial so we can stretch it. So we come up here to File. You want to come down and select Export As. Down here on Select File Type, you want to choose Flexible Image Transport System, which is FITS file. And we're going to put it back in our serial work folder. Mine's on the D drive. Yours can be anywhere you want it. And here's my work folder for serial. I hit Export. And now the image is back in serial. So you can close GIMP at this point. Okay, now we're in serial. Let's go up here and let's open our image that we just ran through GraXpert. It's right here. And you can see that after running it through GraXpert, the image in auto stretch mode will look a little funky. Don't panic, that's no big deal. That's normal to see that. So let's come down here to auto stretch and come up here to linear, and it just went dark, and now we're going to stretch it. Okay, what we're going to do, we're going to create a series of stretches or layers. My goal is to create 7 different layers that we can use masking in GIMP to put those layers together to expose the core of M42. So what we have to do now is we're going to go through and we're going to create those 7 layers. So let's go ahead and create the first layer. So the way we do that is we're going to come up here to Stretches. We're going to come down to Generalized Hyperbolic Stretch Transformation. Here under Color Stretch Model, I want to choose Humid Weighted Luminance. And now we can use this slider to stretch the image a bit. And you can see the image starting to brighten up there. What I want to do in this first layer, I want to make sure that I preserve this small grouping of stars in the core of the nebula. So we're not going to stretch it much. In fact, that's probably, that right there is probably about as far as I want to go, because I want you to be able to see those stars in the final image. So let's go ahead and hit Apply, close this, let's save this image. So now I'm going to save this image as layer number 1 in my TIFF holder folder. So what I want to do is I want to come up here to this download button. I want to change this image to a TIFF file, and I'm going to change the name to layer 1. There you go. And we're going to save it in our TIFF holder, which is in my YouTube work file, and there's the TIFF holder, and save, and hit save again. So layer 1 is now saved. So let's go ahead and create layer 2. So we'll repeat the process that we used before. We come up to image processing, come down to stretches, generalized hyperbolic stretch transformation, and under color stretch again select humid weighted luminance, and let's stretch it on out. At this point we're not too concerned with wiping these stars out in the core because we've got them saved in layer 1. So we just want to start bringing some more detail out here. So we start stretching, apply. Okay, apply. Let's come up here to type of stretch and come down to our linear stretch black point shift and see if we've got any gray area to take out here. All the data in your image is located in this spike. If you notice, we have a little bit of space to the left of that spike. That's pretty much a dead zone where you start picking up gray noise in the image. So I'm going to go ahead and see if I can move this slider to the right. It'll move this spike to the left. The main thing you want to watch for is this clip percentage. You do not want to see a value there. You want that to stay at 0. So if you start seeing a number there, you're clipping into the data of your nebula, and you don't want to do that. So since there's such a small space there, I'm not going to use the slider. I'm going to use the fine-tuning adjustment here. So let's see how far we can take it. There's 1 click, 2 click, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14. There we go. On the 14th click, I started getting a value here. So I want to hit the minus sign and back off 1. And I want to apply that. Okay. So let's close this. Let's save this image. Now this is going to be layer number 2. So we're going to do the same thing we did for layer number 1. We're going to come up here. We're going to send it to our TIFF folder. And we're going to change it again to a TIFF file. And we're going to rename this one layer 2. And we're going to put it in the TIFF holder on our desktop. The same way we did for layer 1. And we'll hit save. And save again. All right, so we've got 2 layers made. Let's go ahead and make layer number 3 again. And we'll just repeat the process. Stretches. Generalized hyperbolic stretch transformation. Choose human weighted luminance for the color stretch. And let's stretch it out some more. Get some more detail out. And the reason we're doing so many layers is, you know, if you've ever tried to process M42 and you're trying to get all this wispiness and all these clouds and other structures out here on the periphery, that core blows out to cover up a whole lot of detail that's in M42. So that's one of the reasons we're creating so many layers, is we want to preserve and expose this detail and be able to get all those structures out here. So I think I may have stretched it a little too much there. Let's back off a little bit. Let's take it up to, okay, I think that right there would be really good for layer number 3. Let's go ahead and apply that. Let's go to the black point slider to see if we can take any space out there. 1, 2, it only let me do 1 click before I showed a value, so I'll back it off 1, hit apply, and close. So there's layer number 3. So let's go ahead and save that image. Let's go ahead and upload it to the TIFF holder, change it to a TIFF file, come up here and rename it as layer 3. And we come back down to desktop, put it back in our TIFF holder. Right there. And hit save. And save again. So our 3rd layer is made. Now let's go ahead and make our 4th layer. Again, we come back up to image processing. We come down to stretches. Generalized hyperbolic stretch transformations. Again, choose human weighted luminance, and let's stretch this image out some more. Okay. All right. That looks like that would be pretty good for layer number 4. This is so subjective, isn't it? I mean, it's all in the eye of the beholder. But what I'm seeing here for layer 4, we're starting to bring out some of this outer structure. Of course, the core is starting to blow out, but we're not worried about that because we have our earlier layers preserving it. Running Man starting to show up pretty good. Let's go ahead and make this layer 4. Again, I'm going to hit apply, and I'm going to come down to the black point shift one more time and see if I can move that spike any. So there's 1, 2, 3. So about 3 clicks, I started showing a value here. So I'll back it off 1, hit apply, close that box, hit save, and then we'll upload this as layer 4. I'll change it to a TIFF file. I'll come up here and rename it. Layer 4. Go to my desktop, down to my YouTube work folder and my TIFF folder, and save it. Okay, we got 4 layers in now. Let's go ahead and create layer number 5. So we just repeat the process, go to stretches. All right, let's go ahead and stretch this out some more. Now we're starting to bring out some of this outer structure on the nebula. So here we go. Okay. All right. That right there might be a good layer 5. We'll hit apply. Again, let's go to the linear black point shift and see if I can move that spike over. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. So I got to number 6 before I got a value there. So I'll back it off 1, hit apply, close, save, and let's download it, turn it into a TIFF file. Let's rename it as layer 5. And we'll put it in our TIFF holder. Same as we did for all the other ones. And save. And save. So we got 5 layers saved. Let's go ahead and create another one. What we're doing now, rather than focusing too much on the detail in the nebula, we're focusing on all this outer structure to see how much that can bring out. So let's go back to image processing. Again, open up our generalized hyperbolic stretch. Go back to human weighted luminance, and let's stretch it some more. All right. That right there looks pretty good for layer number 6. A lot of structure starting to show now. So let's go ahead and check the black point linear stretch on this one too, see if we can get rid of any of it. Now see, I just made a mistake. Before I did this, I forgot to save the stretch, so it reverted back. That's very easy to do. Even the hundreds of times I've done this, sometimes I still forget to save it. So right there's where we were with the stretch. I need to make sure I hit apply. Now when I go to the linear stretch black point shift, the result stayed there. So let's see if we can move it over any. So let's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. So I got it at about 6. I back it off till I get this to 0. There's 0. Hit apply, close. So now we have layer number 6. So save that, and let's go ahead and send layer number 6 to our TIFF folder. Change it to a TIFF file. Come up here and change this name to layer 6. And go to our desktop, my YouTube work folder and my TIFF folder, and save it. So now we have 6 layers saved. Let's go ahead and create a layer 7 We could probably stop here with layer 6 because there's a lot showing, but let's do a 7th layer. So let's go back up to image processing, stretches, hyperbolic stretch transformation, human weighted luminance, and let's stretch it out a little more. Okay. I would say that's going to be layer 7 right there. Okay, so hit apply. Again, let's check out our linear stretch black point shift. See how far we can go. 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. Got up to 9, so I'll back it off 1, and our clip's back to 0. Hit apply and close. Now, there's another type of stretch while we're at this point that you can use in Serial. Come up here at the image processing, select stretches, and instead of coming down here to generalized hyperbolic stretch transformation, they have this one called curves transformation. You click on that and this box opens up, and what you can do, you can manipulate this line to affect your image. I found it to be helpful in some circumstances, but I found it not to be that helpful with M42, which you can see happening, and I'm grossly over exaggerating the adjustments here to make a point. You can see it does some really strange wonky things to your coloration on your image. There are some images where curves transformations comes in handy. You can always experiment with this at any time and see if you can improve your image, but I'm not going to spend any more time on it. I just wanted you to know that the option was there if you wanted to try to use it. Okay, so this is layer number 7. Let's go ahead and save it and send it to our TIFF folder. Change it to a TIFF file and rename it layer 7. Now we'll come down to desktop, and we want to go back to our TIFF holder and save it, and save again. So we have our 7 layers made. Now we can go to GIMP and we can join all those layers together using masking. So I'm going to open GIMP up. Now this process is very simple, but you have to really be a little bit methodical with it because it's so easy to skip a step. I still catch myself doing it and then I have to backtrack. There's nothing hard about it, but you have to follow each step in order to make it work. So we have GIMP open here. What we're going to do is we're going to select File, and we're going to select Open as Layers, and we're going to go to Desktop, and what we're going to do is we're going to go to our TIFF holder folder right here, and there's layer 1. We're going to open the layer 1 TIFF, and this box will open up. I'll always just hit keep, and there it is. So one thing I like to do for view is come down here to zoom and put fit image in window. So there's the layer 1 that we created using to make sure that we kept the stars in the trapezium visible. So what we're going to do is we're going to put layer 2 and put it on top of this one. So the way you do that is you come up here again to File, Open as Layers, and you want to make sure you're in the TIFF holder folder, which we are, and you're going to click on layer 2 and click Keep. So there, now layer 2 is loaded on top of layer 1. The next thing we have to do is we have to create a mask. The way we do that is we come here and select Layer, and we'll come down and select Mask, Add Layer Mask. This box will open up. You just hit Add, and now we have our mask. So what we're going to do is we're going to remove this part of layer 2 to reveal layer 1 under it, so you can see the stars in the trapezium. So the way we do that is you want to make sure both these boxes are black. If they're not, you click on them and choose black and hit OK. But both these boxes have to be black. We're going to come up here and choose the eraser, and the circle shows the size of the eraser, but that's a little bit misleading because as you click on it, it doesn't automatically erase anything in that circle. It's a very gradual process. I'm actually going to reduce the size of the eraser a little bit. Opacity is important. I usually leave it at around 35%, but you can play with that and move it back and forth if you want to. So I'm going to take this eraser and start clicking on the image here, and you'll see layer 1 punch through layer 2. See that? And it left all this other structure that we managed to bring out in on layer 2. So you're looking at the stars in layer 1 there. And if you go too far with it, you can always back off your adjustments right here using this back arrow. All right, I kind of like the way that looks. I'm going to take the brightness of this star down. This is one of those 2 stars down on the lower quadrant of M42 that are just really super bright. So I'm going to take it down to layer 1's brightness. Okay, so we've just done our first masking. Now this is very important. Before moving on, you want to come down here to this icon where it says merge and click on that. And now they're one image. They're no longer 2 images. And you also need to note that once you go back to save this image back in the TIFF folder, it's going to be the new layer 1. It overwrites the old layer 1. So the way we do that is we come up here to File, Export As. We want to leave it a TIFF folder, and we're going to leave it called layer 1. So I'm going to hit Export, and it's going to ask you if you want to replace layer 1 in the folder. And yes, you want to replace it. And hit export. Okay, so we've already combined our first 2 layers. Now in between, you don't have to do this, but in between operations here, I like to close GIMP and reopen it. You probably don't have to, but I think it's just cleaner that way. So let's reopen GIMP again. Okay, this time we're going to do the same thing. We're going to come up here to File, Open as Layers. We're going to go to Desktop. We're going to come down to YouTube Work Folder, open our TIFF holder back up. So now we're going to open Layer 1 again. Remember, we have a new layer 1 here. Layer 1 is actually layer 2 and the old layer 1 combined together. So you click on that, you click Keep, and there it is. Now we're going to load layer 3 in. So we go back to File. We're going to open as Layers. Make sure we're in the TIFF holder. This time we're going to choose layer 3. Hit Keep. And boom, there's layer 3 located or put on top of the old layer 1. Okay, so the next thing we're going to do is we have to create a mask for this. So we come back up here to Layers, come down to Mask, come over to Add Layer Mask, and Add. Then you make sure that your eraser's clicked, make sure these boxes are black. I'm going to make the eraser size a little bit bigger this time, and let's go ahead and peel through layer 3 into layer 1. See how you've exposed all this structure here in the trapezium that you would normally never see. Let's see, let's take that back. I don't want to darken that any. Don't really want to darken that. Might be darkened a little too much, so I'm actually trying things and then coming up here and reversing them. All right. I think that looks pretty good. So what we'll do is we'll go ahead and also reduce these stars. We'll do that on every step. All right, let's come down here to the merge icon. Click on that. Now this is all one image. Layer 1 and layer 3 are joined together. So we want to take this and we want to export it back. And we're just going to hit, make sure it's going to the TIFF folder. We want to hit export, and it's going to ask us if we want to replace layer 1. We do. So export and export. So now this image is saved in our TIFF folder as the new layer 1. So again, I like to close GIMP and reopen it. All right. So again, we go up to File, Open as Layers. We want to go to Desktop. Come down to my YouTube work folder, open up TIFF folder again, and again we want to open up layer 1. Keep. And there's layer 1. Now we're going to load layer 4 over top layer 1. So come up to File, Open as Layers, and make sure we're in the TIFF folder, and we choose layer number 4. And keep. Let's go ahead and go to View and make the image fit the window. Okay, same thing. We need to make a layer mask. Come up here to Layer, Mask, Add Layer Mask, and Add. Make sure you got your eraser selected and both these boxes are black. Okay, let's see what we can do. Let's punch through it. All right. So there's the detail in the trapezium there. It's really nice to kind of resurrect that and bring it back to life so you can see all that. Maybe hit this once. Okay, that looks pretty good. We want to take the star brightness down some again. There you go. These stars here are always problematic in this image. I've seen some people do really great jobs with them, but I always struggle with them. So let's try a couple more. No, that's too dark. Try down here. No, that's too dark. Okay, I think we're pretty good right there. All right, so there's layer 4 joined on top of layer 1. So let's go ahead and save that. We got to merge it first. It's easy to forget to do that. Come down here to your Merge tab, click on it. Now they're all one image. Now we can take this file, export it as, hit Export, and yeah, we want to replace it. So now this image is the new layer 1. Okay, so again, I'm going to close GIMP. I'm going to reopen GIMP. And now we're going to do layer 5. So let's go up here and go up to File, Open as Layers, come down to Desktop. Okay. YouTube work, TIFF folder. Let's open layer 1 up. So hit Keep. So there's our new layer 1. Let's go ahead and make it fit the window so we can see it better. Now we want to go back and load layer 5 over top of this layer 1. File, open as layers, layer 5, and hit keep. All right, so we're going to do the same thing. We're going to make a layer mask, go up to layer, mask, add layer mask, and add. And I'm going to make my eraser a little bigger here. Make sure these boxes are black and you've got eraser selected. So let's go ahead and start punching through layer 5. It's looking pretty nice. Like I said, this is so subjective. I mean, there's probably a bunch of you out there thinking, wow, that looks great. And some people are probably thinking, why did he do that? Leave it alone. Okay, I think that looks pretty good. Let's go down here and try to reduce these guys. Now see, now I'm messing it up. When I go down here to reduce this large star, you see this big dark void that I'm creating. So let's back off on that. Maybe let's try making the brush size smaller. See if we can dim that down some, at least dim it down. Okay, I can probably live with that. Okay, that looks pretty good. I think we're ready to go and do layer 6 now. Let's see. Yeah. That doesn't look too awfully bad. Let's go ahead and go with that. Okay, let's come down here and hit merge. All right, now they're one image, so let's go ahead and export it back and hit export. And yes, we want to replace layer 1. Hit export. Now this image is the new layer 1. So let's go ahead and close GIMP and reopen it. All right. So File, Open as Layers, Desktop. And we're going to come all the way down to my YouTube work folder, click the TIFF folder, and again we'll open up layer 1, keep. So there's our new layer 1. So let's take that and change the view to where it's filling the window up. All right, now let's load layer 6 over. So File, Open as Layers, make sure you're in a TIFF folder, choose layer 6, hit keep. Wow, look at that blown out core. It's nice to have a way to get rid of that and still see all this stuff out here. So let's go ahead and create a layer mask. And there we go. I'm going to make the brush bigger this time. And let's see how we do. Just zero right in on that trapezium. Just kind of move it around a little bit and kind of, it's nice to see that glare going away. It's not looking too bad. So hit that. In fact, the Running Man could probably use a little bit of, take some of the glare out. hit it in a couple of spots. Because remember, we have another layer to put on top of this one. I shouldn't have done that. Let's take that off. Okay, so not too bad. All right. So there we go. There's layer 6. All right. Let's go ahead and see if we can knock these stars down a little bit. Let's see here. Let's see. Let's take it back to and just hit this one. All right. I could probably live with that. Now, something else you can use masking for. Since I did this in Alt-Az, you'll see some artifacts here in the corners, a little bit of noise. You can actually come in and hit it a couple times with your eraser and at least, reduce it. And I might do a tiny bit of cropping also. Okay, so there's layer 6 done. So let's turn layer 6 back into layer 1. So make sure you hit merge. Now it's all one image. Come up here to File, Export As, Export, hit Replace, and Export. And now this image is the new layer 1. So let's close GIMP, and let's reopen it, and let's do the final layer, layer 7. Okay, open as layers, desktop. TIFF holder, and let's open layer 1 up. Keep. There's our new layer 1. Let's go ahead and go back up to File, open as layers, make sure you're in the TIFF holder, and open layer 7, our final layer. Keep. And let's go ahead and make the image fill the window. Okay, so you can see what would happen if we weren't doing layering. Your core, yeah, you'll get all this detail, but look how blown out our core would be. So let's go ahead and make our final adjustment. Let's go ahead and create a layer mask again. All right, and I'm going to take the size of the eraser on up for this, as we're going to take a lot of this bright area out and punch to the layer beneath. So there's 1 click, 2 clicks, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. It's a miracle. So we pretty much completely removed that glare. Try to take a little bit of this stuff in the corners out. Okay, it's quite a difference. So this was our 7th and final layer. So what we're going to do, all right, that looks pretty good. What we're going to do is we're going to go ahead and merge this. Well, I almost forgot to try to do something with those pesky stars down here. Let's see. Let's reduce the size of that. See if we can help these stars out. Yeah. I don't like that. I tell you, if any of you folks out there watching this video have a suggestion for working with these bright stars here, I would really appreciate it if you would put it in the comments. I'm sure others would too. This is not fun to deal with for me because I'm not really good at it. All right, I'll leave it like that. Maybe I can go back later and do something to it. Okay, so make sure you merge everything. This is all one layer now. We're done with our layering, so now we can finish processing. So what we'll do is we'll take this and we'll export it as, and we'll export it and replace. So export. So now this is our new layer 1. This is our final image. We can finish processing it now. See if we can make it look prettier. So let's close GIMP and let's open up the TIFF holder. And just for let's do this just so you can have a good look at it. Okay, these are our 7 layers here. You can remember our first layer, you could just barely see the stars in the trap, but now layer 1 is our final image. But you can see the progression here as we went through and created the layers so that we could stack them on top of each other to come up with this final image. So pretty good illustration there. But just for housekeeping, I'm going to go ahead and get rid of all these guys. We don't need them anymore. All right. So the next thing we're going to do is we're going to use AstroSharp to sharpen the image. So we open AstroSharp. AstroSharp, you want to make sure that you have full image selected here. You want to make sure that you select second beta here. This is the one that worked best for me. Feel free to experiment with these other models, but second beta has always worked great for me. Now, normally I'm really aggressive, but with the Horsehead Nebula, I've learned not to be too aggressive on sharpening. So I'm going to take the aggressive slider back to about 60%. And I'm going to bring the PSF slider down to about 60%. There's no stars in the image, so that stays down at the minimum setting. Okay, so we've got our sliders set. We've got full image set. We've got second beta chosen. Now let's browse and put our image in there. So here it is, layer 1. It'll load right here. There's a black and white version there. Don't worry about it. And then we're going to click Update Sliders. And what AstroSharp will do, it will take this image and sharpen it up. And you'll see the result right here in just a moment. Okay, there is our result. Let's go ahead and download it into the TIFF holder. All right, and let's shut AstroSharp. Let's go to our TIFF holder and let's have a look. Now, when you run something through AstroSharp, the program will spit out a result and call it processed. So let's go ahead and click on that and see what it looks like. And there it is. And let's compare it to the original before it went through AstroSharp. Okay, so this is the original and this is the sharpened version. I see a nice subtle difference there. I like the results, so I'm going to go ahead and accept it. So let's go ahead and go back to the TIFF folder. So I want to take this processed image and I want to rename it at this point. And usually when I rename it, I just put a 1 in front of processed and save that. The reason I do that is we have to send the stars through AstroSharp too, and it's going to name that file processed, and that way you won't have a conflict. It won't try to save that processed over this one. So we can go ahead and do away with layer 1. We're done with it. All right, let's go ahead and send this back to GIMP so we can do a little more processing on it. Let's see, I need to go ahead and close these. All right, so we have GIMP open. So File, this time we're going to click on Open, and we're going to go to our TIFF holder. So now we're on our desktop. I'm going to go down to my YouTube work folder, and we're going to go to our TIFF holder, and we're going to open up our one processed. And let's go ahead and take this and put it, let's fit it in the window so we can see it better. Okay, all right. So now let's go up here to colors, and let's look at color saturation. So you hit on color saturation, and this box will open, and you have this slider. So let's increase the saturation a bit and see how it does. And you can see the color changing there. Of course, you can really go way too far with it. Let me reset. We might add a tiny bit of intensity. I don't really want to overdo it. There we are. That looks pretty good right there. Hit OK. Now let's go back up to colors again. Let's come down to shadows. The shadows slider here will have an effect on a lot of this outer wispiness out here. So let's go ahead and increase that a little bit and see what it does. You can see it brings it out. You have to be careful with shadows because you can almost wipe the image or wash the image out. You can take it in the other direction. Let's reset it and put it back where it was. So probably take it up a little bit there. It reveals a little bit more. Okay, and then down here on white point, you can use it sometimes. Sometimes you can take the glare off. You can also brighten areas up with it. You can almost wash stars out with it if you're not careful. So go back to neutral, maybe bring it down a little bit there. That's good. Okay. And one other tab under colors I like to use is the brightness and the contrast. I take this contrast bar, and sometimes taking contrast up a little bit will help your image. You don't want to take it up too far because you start losing detail, and you don't want to drop it too much because you start washing your image up. Let's go back to neutral. Maybe take it up just a little bit there. All right, that doesn't look too bad. Sharpness looks pretty good on it. It may be actually over sharpened a little bit. Let's hit OK to preserve our contrast. If you want to sharpen it up some more, you can come up here and select Filters, come down to Enhance, and then come over to this box and come down to Sharpen. And you can see it adds some sharpening to it automatically. That's too much. Take it down to where it started, and you might be able to introduce just a little bit of sharpening, but not too much. If you sharpen an image, especially an intricate one like M42, you'll start introducing structures to it that really aren't there. If I go extreme, you'll see the structures I'm talking about there. But you want to be careful. You don't even want to do it subtly if you can help it. Okay. I think that looks pretty good. We'll click OK. So let's go ahead and take this image and send it back to Cyril so that we can put the stars back in it. So we're going to come up here to File, come down to Export. Down here at Select File type, you want to click on that. You want to select Flexible Image Transport System, so you turn it back into a FITS file. And my Cyril work folder is on my D file. There it is right there, and you hit Export, and now this image is back in Cyril. So we can go ahead and close GIMP, and let's go back and maximize Cyril. Okay, so we're back in Cyril. This is the layer 7 that we ended with before we went to GIMP to put the layers together. It's interesting, we can go ahead and open our final result right here and load it over this, and you can see the difference we made. So we just choose one processed, and look at the difference. That bright core is all gone. So next thing we're going to do is we're going to get the stars ready. So let's open our star mask, and we have to stretch them. So we come up here to Image Processing, Stretches, Generalized Hyperbolic Stretch Transformations. Now under Type of Stretch, you want to open this drop down box up and use Modified Arcsine Transform. Again, the color stretch model, you want to change it to Humid Weighted Luminance. And I usually take the stars up to about 7.5 or so, somewhere in that range. So there they are, they look good. You hit Apply, Close, save the result. Now we need to take this image through AstroSharp. So let's go ahead up here and hit the Save button. We want to turn this into a TIFF file. Go back to our desktop, and we're going to go back to our TIFF holder and hit Save. And save again. So then we can minimize Cyril at this point. Let's reopen AstroSharp. And the stars actually look pretty good, but as I've stated in previous tutorials, you have to send the stars through AstroSharp because you sent the nebula through AstroSharp. If you don't, then you won't be able to marry them back together. So here's AstroSharp open. The stars don't really need sharpening, so I'm going to drop all the sliders down to pretty much minimum. And you need to make sure you click Full Image. Come over here to Choose Model, choose Second Beta, Browse, get your star mask right here that we just pulled from Cyril, and click Update Sliders and let AstroSharp do its thing. Okay, there's our result. So we want to download the result into our TIFF holder, hit Save. We can close AstroSharp, and if we go back into our TIFF holder, you'll see our new sharpened star mask image is now called Processed. So what we want to take this, what we want to do is we want to take this image and send it back to Cyril now so that we can put it back in the nebula image. So let's go ahead and open GIMP up. Up here to File, Open, Desktop. TIFF holder, and here's our image processed. Okay, there it is. Now we want to send this back to Cyril as a FITS file. So we come up to File, Export As, come down to Select File Type, choose Flexible Image Transport System. I go back to my D drive where my Cyril work folder is. There it is. Hit Export and close GIMP. Go back to Cyril, and let's go ahead and open our stars, our processed image we just brought back, and here it is. So let's go ahead and put the stars back in the image. First, let's open up our nebula image, And let's see if we can take any more green noise out of it. Image processing, remove green noise, apply. Yeah, there was a bit of a difference there. So let's hit save. All right, let's go ahead and put the stars back in. So let's come up to image processing, come down to star processing, star recomposition, and you have to close the current image. So you're going to have this box open up. The left side is for the nebula, the right side is for the stars. So let's load the nebula in first. You come up to this little folder icon and click on it. And remember, one processed is our finished nebula. So we click on that, and there it is. Now we're going to come to this side, go up to this folder icon and click on it. And we're going to come down and load processed in. Remember, that's our old star mask. It's called processed now. Click on that. Now the stars are in the image. So I'm going to take the stars down just a little bit. In the early days of my image processing, I used to like to take the stars down a lot because I thought, it put more emphasis on the nebula and didn't take away from the nebula. But as I've evolved in this hobby, I like to actually leave as many stars in as possible. I've grown to really like that. So I think probably a good balance would be, and again, all this is in the eye of the beholder. That's probably a pretty good balance right there. Yeah, we'll take that. And you can come over to this side and also manipulate the nebula. You can stretch it a little more if you want to, which of course I don't really think we need. You can actually adjust the black point a little bit if you need to. In fact, a little bit of black point may actually help this image because it's a little bit hazy like that. You bring a little bit of the black point slider in, and it kind of gives a little more definition to everything. Okay. That doesn't look too awfully bad. We'll apply this results. We'll close it. I'm going to go ahead and save this image. And I like to save my finished images as PNG files. You can save it as a JPEG if you want to, but PNG just holds so much more information. It holds probably 4 times the information. The only downside is, you start saving a bunch of PNG files, it'll take more room up on your hard drive. So, the way you do that, you just come down to this tab, select PNG, and it turns it into a PNG file. I also want to rename this image. I'll just call it M42 tutorial. And I'm going to go ahead and save it in my image folder on my desktop. Let's see, ultimate. I call it the ultimate folder where I put my best stuff. And hit save. Okay, so we have a little bit more to do to this image and then we're done. I'm going to go down here and go to the desktop and open up where I just saved that image. And it's here, and let's see, M42 tutorial, where are you? Let's see. Here it is, right here. Okay, so this is our final image. I'm going to go ahead and rotate it. I kind of like that orientation right there. And I'm going to use the stock editor on my computer here just to see if we can improve the image any. And you have this editor on your computer. It may be a little bit different, but the functions are pretty much the same. So I'm going to choose adjustments. A lot of people send it through Lightroom at this point. We can try sharpness, although I don't want to add too much because I'm starting to see artifacts on it. Yeah, I'm not going to add any sharpness to it. Saturation, I don't think we need any saturation either. It starts looking pretty wild right out of the chute when you add that. Looks pretty cool in black and white. So I'm not going to add any saturation at all. Vignette is something you can use to get rid of some of this noise on the edges from my Alt-Az days. For instance, watch this corner when I take Vignette up. Helps a little bit. I may actually crop that in some. So yeah, we'll have a little bit of Vignette there. It actually affects all four corners of the image. Highlights, I've noticed that my stars are a little bit blown out, so reducing highlights might make that more subtle. You can actually make it to where you gray them out. So I'm going to take highlights down a little bit. Yeah, I think taking that down a little bit helped. Contrast, we can try a little bit of contrast here. Take it down or take it up. Put it back in neutral. I think that looks okay. You can mess with the exposure slider a little bit. I think I'm going to leave it neutral. The brightness slider a little bit. Okay. All right, let's go back to crop. Let's crop this image a little bit. I don't want to crop it too much, but like I say, from my Alt-Az days, I introduced some junky corners there. That looks good, so let's go ahead and save it. Okay, I'm going to call that finished. So there you go, folks. That's how you use masking in GIMP to get rid of that core in M42, and you can actually apply this to a bunch of other objects. Some other objects I've used it on. I've used it on the Iris Nebula. I've used it on Andromeda Galaxy M31, where I reduced the core brightness down relative to the rest of the galaxy. You can use this on a host of different structures, and I kind of rushed through this through the tutorial. That image looks pretty good. You can actually improve on it by taking your time with it, and you can create more than 7 layer masks if you want to. It just depends on how subtle you want to be with it. Anyway, this video was requested by a lot of my subscribers, so here it is. I hope you benefited from it. As I video this, it's Thanksgiving morning. I hope everybody's enjoying the day with their families, and have a great Thanksgiving. Thank you for being subscribers. I appreciate every one of you, and let me know what you think in the comments, and we'll see you on the next video.